guys? Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina, and it is time for that live stream show. Welcome to the Hubbard's Marina live stream show on Sunday night. Hopefully, you're ready to win some free stuff. Do you want to win some free stuff, learn about fishing, talk about the weather, see what's happening now, check out some cool photos, and have a good time? Well, you've come to the right place. Our live stream show happens every Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. We give away a 5-hour half day for 2, 10-hour all day for 2, a 39-hour trip for 1, and the Hubbard's Marina swag pack. Plus, we answer your questions live. We talk about what's going on now, what's coming up, do announcements, and talk a little bit about the weather, the best fishing days, and more. So if you have a question you want answered live during the show, shoot us a text to the phone number at the bottom of the screen. You want a chance to win free stuff? All you have to do is comment once on the live stream video that you're watching. You can comment on YouTube, Trovo, Twitch, on Instagram, anywhere we're streaming. But if you want a chance to be entered to win free stuff, you have to comment one time on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook stream. So go over to facebook.com, find the Hubbard's Marina page, give us a like, find the live video. You can tell it's the live video because it's the one featured at the top of the page. It'll say red live. Click that live video, comment one time, make sure you give it a share, make sure you give it a like for us as well. But all you have to do is comment in order to be eligible to win. Then you have to watch the show live because we're going to announce randomly throughout the show at intervals, unbeknownst to me. We just kind of pick them randomly. We'll announce live the winners. Your name will come up on the screen. I'll say your name live on the video, and then you'll have 5 minutes or less to text the phone number at the bottom of the screen, your full home address. That's how you enter to win. That's how you claim your free trips, and that's how the show works. Hopefully, you'll join us every Sunday night for the live stream show. We're happy to have you. Thanks for being a part of our Hubbard's Marina family. Let's dive right in. We always start by showing you what's going on now, showing you some cool photos of what's happening inshore. Then we jump a little bit deeper to nearshore and offshore photos. Then we jump into the weather. We talk about what's coming up, what's going on now, do some announcements. Then we jump into your questions. And remember, if you have a question you want answered live during the show, you have to text it to the phone number at the bottom of the screen. Because your comments, they go by really fast. We don't always get to see them. So make sure if you have a question you want answered live, shoot us a text. With that, let's jump into the photos and see what's going on now, what we're catching. First things first, inshore right now, we're seeing the pompano. The pompano bite has really picked up as of late. Really seeing some nice pompano action out on the jetty. Some of our guys over at Don's Dock Seafood Market are out there on the jetty fishing in the morning. Taryn and Sean were out there catching a bunch of the pompano from the Johns Pass Jetty and Madeira Beach and Treasure Island. The problem was the mackerel kept eating some of the jigs. So there's a lot of mackerel around too. So it makes it a little bit tricky to stay away from the mackerel. But the pompano are there. The mackerel are thick. It is a great time to fish the jetties right now. Plus, the snook are back on the beaches already. And there's snook in the passes. And this morning, I couldn't get away from the redfish. I dropped down a shrimp, perfect cast right up underneath the bait tank. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get me a snooky. And sure enough, shrimp got slammed, rod bent over. I was like, oh, yeah, there she is. Set the hook, started cranking, and it didn't really fight very much. But it had some shoulders. It had weight, but it just wasn't fighting. I was like, what is going on? Is this snook asleep? Pulled it up, nice big redfish, not the right flavor I was looking for. Didn't give me the fight I wanted for sure. So the redfish are around the pass, 2 surprisingly. Not real big ones like our friends Joe and Luke have here, but some pretty good sizes, and there was quite a few of them. And still a lot of sheep's head around too. We were seeing quite a few sheep's head caught off the dock today, so the sheep's head action is still going well. That wintertime pattern still persistent, but a lot of the springtime patterns are here. The redfish schooling up, and you can see here's a sheep's head at the dock from our friend Ralph. Dan the fishman catching some nice sheep's head. A lot of snook around. The snook are already out on the beaches. It is that time of year. We're going to start seeing our friend Scott Soudorf here shooting us a bunch of photos of big snook from the Bel Air tackle and dogfish tackle gear that he uses out there on the beaches. So we're excited to see the big snook shows that are going to start showing up here. A lot of big trout around still as well. This is one of those hangovers from those wintertime patterns. The sheep's head and the trout action still going pretty well despite the water warming up quite a bit. It's one of those great times of year that we see the wintertime patterns still holding over and a lot of the summertime patterns already setting up. So spring in Florida is one of those things that is not really a season, but we have a lot of these transitions that are happening from kind of cooler weather patterns to more warmer weather patterns, and that's what we're seeing now. Now, offshore, what that means, near shore and offshore, what that means is we're seeing a lot of unique species, like these African pompano definitely are more common this time of year. We see a lot more of these African pompano in the spring. We see them through the summer and into the fall too, and even throughout the winter as well, but it seems to be this time of year we see a lot more African pompano. Nice scamp grouper there. Beautiful fish there, Jesse. Big old fat gag groupers getting caught and released. Some beautiful hogfish as of late. The hogfish bite has been pretty darn good. Slowed down a little bit as of late. We're definitely seeing a little bit of a downtrend in the number of hogfish, but the lane snapper are making up for it. A lot of lane snapper lately. Of course, always gray snapper or white grunts. And then the red grouper action has been pretty steady as well. Big mangrove snapper lately, seeing a lot of big mangrove snapper on the 39-hour trips. And some good average size to the mangrove snapper as well. Fat red groupers are always welcome. Like I said, the red grouper bite's been pretty good. Consistent mangrove snapper, some big vermilions, porgies, almacos, and a good time to get out there, get after them triggerfish as well. Triggerfish are open March through December with a spawning closure in June and July. So lots of triggerfish out there right now too. So good time to go fishing. Plus, we're going to see the pelagic action uptick. We're starting to see a lot of mackerel caught trolling on the way out on the 5-hour trip today. We had a big mackerel on the 5-hour. The Hub private fishing charters caught a bunch of mackerel trolling. There's even some kingfish starting to show up as well. So mackerel are here, kingfish are here, lane snapper bites picking up. We're seeing more mangroves, seeing a pretty good consistent red grouper bite. Hogfish are slowing down as water's warming up, but there's things that are kind of filling in those gaps with the pelagics, the African pompano, and plenty of snapper action. So, and the triggerfish are now open too. So it's an exciting time to get out there and do some catching. With that, let's say hello to some of these star senders that have been hooking us up here since we started. We had Stephen Batchelor, LaShonda Brown, Aaron Luke, James McCullum with the big 500 stars, Jason Richmond, Todd Stutzman, Nathan Albom, Brian Eakins, D. Beers, Sean Gossier with the big 500 stars. Thanks, buddy. Dan Netto, Lance Hall, Larry White, Paul Thomas, Lance Hall with a big, what's that, 500 in total there. Corey Mikulski with 500. Thank you, my friend. D. Beers with 1,000. Rick Rogers with 500. Thank you, my friend. Scott Flynn, Keith White, Jasmine Marie, D. Beers with another 1,500. Oh, another 1,900. Thank you, D. And Ryan Welser, Jennifer Neal, Angel Perez with 2,000. Thank you, Angel. Jason Richmond, Kyle Hopwood, and a big 1,000 from Tim Harris. Appreciate y'all and all the stars. The stars are for those watching on Facebook, a way to kind of help support and fuel the show. Definitely makes what we do even more possible, so we appreciate you. Plus, also want to give a shout out to our supporters group out there who help fuel and make the show possible. And, of course, our friends over at Gator Jim's Tackle, 3301 Pinellas Point Drive South in St. Pete. This show is made possible and brought to you by our friends over at Gator Jim. Stop by and say hello. Tell them Hubbard's Marina sent you, and they have a free gift for the young angler with you in your party. Plus, of course, the supporters. Don't forget about our supporters after show that happens every week. If you want access to that private supporters group, the private after show, join the supporters group. It's only $4.99 a month. It helps support us and make what we do possible. Plus, we've got that supporters fishing trip coming up, supporters only, and it's going to be a good time as well. So, With that, let's see here. What are we going to talk about tonight? We got a lot to talk about, a lot of different things. Plus, we want to answer your questions as well. But first, we got to get into the weather. Talk a little bit about the weather. Weather is a little weathery this week, so let's get into the weather. We're going to pop over to hubbardsmarina.com, and right on hubbardsmarina.com, we're going to hit fishing trips. We're going to scroll down to that second one there, weather links. We're going to hit the wind finder forecast for the 5 and 10 hour forecast area, and you can see the weathery is here. So we had really, really nice weather last week. Really all the way through the week and into the weekend, and it was starting to feel a lot like summer, or kind of what I call fake summer here in Florida, where we get these early springs. This happened last year too. Everybody's like, oh, it's early spring, it's warming up, oh, it's so nice, it's in the 80s, and then all of a sudden we got slapped with a couple cold fronts and it was back into the 50s. And that's what we're looking at, unfortunately, here. Today is gorgeous. Tomorrow's going to be pretty nice, but we're going to get a little bit of rain in the morning. Wind's going to start picking up in the later afternoon. And tomorrow night, around 6, 7, 8 o'clock, that frontal boundary is going to come through. A lot of people are talking about bad weather tomorrow. Really, I don't see bad weather tomorrow. I see the wind picking up, but really not until late afternoon. And the frontal boundary is not going to be here until tomorrow night, like 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. There is a slight chance of rain. We're probably going to get a scattered line of storms, but that's going to be pretty short-lived. So I wouldn't let that scare you too much, because tomorrow's going to be warm. It's going to be a little overcast. It's going to be a nice day to capitalize on some fun in the sun before Tuesday, where it's going to blow and it's going to get cold. 55 degrees there Tuesday, midday. So that's a little chilly for us Floridians. Going to get back into the mid-50s. Going to warm up to the low to mid-60s, but still be pretty chilly there Wednesday. Fish are going to be in shock. Air temperatures right now, remember, are pretty consistent in the 80s. So to go from 80s to all of a sudden 50s and then warm up to the 60s, water temps are going to dip a little bit. We have a lot of overcast conditions. The fish are going to go into a little bit of shock, just like you and I. So Wednesday's probably going to be a little bit tough fishing. Tuesday looks rough and windy. Wednesday's probably going to be some tougher fishing. Thursday, it's going to pick back up and probably be pretty nice there Thursday. Thursday looks like a pretty decent day. Should warm up a little bit, be back into the low 70s. We got that high pressure settling in, so barometer should be moving. And things are looking pretty good Thursday. Then it gets really, really, really not so nice there Friday morning. 2 inches of rain they're calling for Friday morning. That's a serious line of prefrontal activity, and some serious wind picks up before a pretty hardened down strong front they're forecasting this weekend coming up. So definitely not looking so great this weekend, starting Friday, really Thursday night. So, again, I would highly encourage you to go fishing tomorrow. Tomorrow, Monday looks good, and then Wednesday looks good weather-wise. Fishing might be tough. Thursday looks pretty nice weather-wise, and fishing should be pretty good because you're on the backside of a front ahead of some nasty weather, ahead of another front. So I would say your best fishing days are going to be Monday and Thursday this week, and then Wednesday is going to be fishable, but probably not that great of fishing because that weather is going to kind of spook them a little bit, make it a little bit tough. So definitely interesting there. Now, hopefully, I don't know if we're going to hear from Captain Mike Anderson, but if we do, it'll be interesting because he didn't show up for the radio show this morning. He wasn't there yesterday. He's been in Costa Rica all week. So we haven't heard any updates from Costa Rica, and I know his wife outfished him again for like the 100th year in a row. He takes her with him to film these fishing shows, and she outfishes him. So I hope he calls in because we gotta poke fun at that. That's gonna be fun. So if he calls in, we gotta talk about that. If not, we'll stay focused on domestic fisheries here. And there's a lot to talk about, like I said. But let's go ahead and give away our first free giveaway of the night. Then we'll get into your questions. Remember, if you have a question you want answered live during the show, make sure you text it in to the phone number at the bottom of the screen. So let's see. Yeah, we all feel bad for Captain Mike, right? He went to Costa Rica. He fished from a 44-foot container with quad beautiful Yamaha engines, and ate great food, sat at a beautiful pool bar, had a private chef. We all feel real bad for Captain Mike Anderson. No, we don't. All right. First free giveaway tonight. Let's go ahead and do the Hubbard's Marina swag pack. The swag pack. Let's find out who won the Hubbard's Marina swag pack. You got to remember, tell us your T-shirt size with this as well. Daryl Mountcastle. Daryl Mountcastle, I'm going to go with. Ohio. Congratulations, Daryl. You got 5 minutes or less to text us your full home address and your T-shirt size for that swag pack, because we got to send you out a T-shirt with the swag pack. So also want to make sure we remind you guys this voting season, this electoral season coming up November of 24, there is going to be a ballot measure if you're a Floridian. If you're a registered Florida voter, ballot measure amendment 2. It's going to be the right to hunt and fish. We want to become the 24th state to amend our Constitution to add the right to hunt and fish. Josh is going to put the link in the chat. Don't want to spend too much time on this because we've covered it on 2 radio shows in a row. We talked a little bit about it on the live show as well, but it's super important. If you want clean water, you like clean, protected lands, you want access to hunt and fish, really, really want to make sure we get that right to hunt and fish amended to our Constitution. So Josh will put the link in the chat. Make sure you check it out and sign that petition and vote yes on Amendment 2 come November if you're a registered Florida voter. All right. With that, let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, Don's Dock. We have a bait expansion we wanted to talk about. So it's getting to be that time of year. You know what time of year it is? Spring. It's exciting. Things are happening. Fish are moving. We're talking about it. Mackerel are back. Kingfish are back. Things are warming up. Snook are back. There's still trout around. There's still sheepshead around, but the redfish are schooling. We're seeing lots of pompano. Near shore, we're starting to see the hogfish slow down. The lanes are picking up. We're starting to see mackerel and kingfish, African pompano picking up. All this good stuff is happening. The negative thing that happens this time of year, shrimp supply starts to plummet. And it's because the shrimp, when the water starts to warm up, the shrimp, they recede into deeper water and they spread out. So the bait shrimpers start to have a real big problem fulfilling orders. So we'll order 10,000 shrimp, and some days we'll get 3,000 delivered. Or we'll order 10,000 shrimp, and some days we get 5,000, or some days we get 7,000, or some days we get 1,000. Or worst days, we get no shrimp. So shrimping ain't easy. It starts to get harder this time of year. So it's definitely that time of year where we start to get shorted on shrimp orders, and shrimp get a little bit smaller as well. So that is one of those things we're dealing with right now, but we're expanding bait selections. So Don's Dock is now almost always carrying a supply of live pinfish, and we've got live pinfish at Hubbard's Marina more consistently, and we've expanded our bait tank area, so hopefully we're going to have some white bait sitting around too. So we're going to have that to talk about as well. So bait expansions on the doorstep of the shrimp decline, unfortunately. But we've got Captain Mike Anderson on the phone, as promised. We're going to talk a little bit about Costa Rica and the fact that Beth caught that 65-pound rooster fish, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've caught a 35-pound rooster, and I remember thinking that's a lot of fish. And there was a couple moments there in the battle where I thought, oh, this one might get her, but it did not. She ended up whooping its butt, and it's a beautiful fish. And, luckily for me, I did catch 4 cubera on this trip.
Whoa.
So, yeah, I got a 40, a 30, and a 25, and a 20.
I think mine was in the 50s, but that's pretty nice.
Right. Sure. Yeah, we had good luck on the cuberas. We caught some mahi. It was a good trip. We had some sailfish on and lost them. Just such a beautiful place. The Zancudo Lodge there.
That's awesome.
Just outside of Golfito there is a spectacular place. So
I saw you had Captain Javier again. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. We were fishing with Javi, and he did a good job. We botched a couple. Well, I mean, anybody who spent any time sail fishing, it's just, they start jumping around. Sometimes it's hard to keep them hooked, and that's kind of what we ran into. Beth had a really big sailfish on, and it ate, swam right at her doing 100 miles an hour, and that's tough. So we had a tuna on that came unbuttoned, and
awesome.
Luckily we were out there, caught enough fish to get 2 shows, and ate like kings, and stayed in a beautiful resort there on the west coast of Costa Rica. And now I'm ready to get to work this week and get out there and catch some fish. I heard the bite's been red hot, so I can't wait to get out there and attack it.
The bite has been red hot, and the kingfish are here, so you can get out and get your kingfish in your bay boat. And the 26 bay is waiting for you. And I know Scott Moore has been getting those rat kingfish, kind of the early kingfish, the schoolies, in like basically about 40 to 50 foot of water right off Anna Maria. They seem to be mostly south of the ditch. So for those who have their own boats, south of Egmont Channel is where the kingfish are being caught mostly. But I've heard reports. I know Captain Bill Fell said he got a nice one in the parking lot area. I've been hearing that we're seeing them skyrocket north of the channel, north of the ditch. Okay. There's a ton of mackerel around, and today we saw some big mackerel come up on the half-day trolling those planers and spoons. Some really sizable mackerel and lots of bait. And Captain Will Osborne out of Cortez, he had a nice big sailfish. So the sailfish are here. Yeah, it's that time of year. It's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's always a sailfish 2 or 3 that are caught while we're out there kingfishing. So that is exciting. I got a cool trip on Wednesday with an old customer. Hopefully that weather will come down. How's Tuesday look? I wanted to ask you because
not great.
I'm so yeah, that's what I thought. I thought Tuesday was going to be kind of a bummer.
Yeah, Tuesday's kind of a bummer. Wednesday's going to calm down nice, but it's still going to be it's going to be a little chilly out there on the water. But you might be able to sneak out there Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the good Lord gives us. And that's the beauty, with that snook bite firing off in the backcountry. There's still a lot of big trout around. The redfish bite's pretty solid, I've heard. So, bait wasn't too hard to get. So hopefully that doesn't change between now and tomorrow morning. And, we're going to get out there and just kind of go to work. Probably going to try to get over on the South Shore and attack some of my really early spring spots and hope for the best.
I heard today Captain Scott Moore called in to the radio show after me, and I stayed on the line to hear his report. He also mentioned permit and cobia becoming a thing on some of those patch reefs as well. So it is spring full-fledged, it seems like, and it will be interesting this week because we've got that pretty decent cold front there Monday night, Tuesday, and then a pretty strong cold front potentially this upcoming weekend. So 2 cold fronts pretty close together. It will be interesting to see kind of how that affects the spring fishery. That seems to
I've
be
got
popped
40.
Off.
Supposed to have 43 boats running Friday for Advent Health, so not liking our
welcome home, Mike. Welcome home.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Good to be home. What was interesting about Costa Rica was the effect of El Nino that we had here all summer is still going on there. Mm-hmm. Water temps were 90 degrees there, so they're still in the midst of and it was hot and just tough on the boat 3 days in a row, 11, 12 hours a day.
So tough on that 44-foot.
You know what? We didn't get to 40. We did not get to 44. We didn't get to 44. We ended up on a 32, which was still comfortable. Yeah, somebody came in and booked it, so which I understood. I understood Greg giving it up. We were slotted for the 44, but a gentleman from Connecticut who we got to meet, him and his family came in and booked the presidential suite and the 44 ST for like 5 days in a row. So
I gotcha. So you didn't have the air-conditioned cabin?
No air conditioning. No, we were in the 32 ST, which was kind of nice. Cause, we were still living large in the 32 ST, which in my opinion is a perfect boat for there. That on the West Coast it rolls. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem to be as chopped. Of course, you're in 3,000 feet of water.
Yeah.
So that really helps. But it was more just really big rollers, far apart.
I think I was in a 26 Panga or something like that when I was there, and it was 18-foot seas with like a 20-some second period. It was crazy. It was like we were just going over these hills at like 30 miles an hour. It was so strange.
Yeah.
It was very weird.
Same thing.
I remember getting a little like, whoa, I think I'm going to get seasick because it was just so different from what we have here.
For sure. Yeah. And I had the exact same feeling. And we were fishing some big pods of dolphin, white-bellied dolphins, and some spotted dolphin.
Chasing them for tuna.
The tuna usually run with them. And it was interesting because we had other boats from Zancudo, other 32s, even the 44. We were on the same pods of dolphin together.
That's cool.
And you'd be looking to your left, and you'd see the 32, and then you wouldn't see the 32 because it was down below the waves. I'm like, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But it wasn't rough. Could have probably used a little more breeze. Might have helped a little because, again, it was really, really hot. But, it's just a neat trip. The food was great. The fishing was great. Super happy to be home and going to work this week. Not happy with the weather, but anxious to get some customers.
It was gorgeous
get out
while
there
you
and
were
go to work. Of course, yeah. I heard the same thing about the permit. I heard the permit bite's good, so
yeah,
that's pretty exciting, which doesn't surprise me. Once those kingfish start to show up, them early kingfish is usually some of our best permit fishing of the year, so that doesn't totally surprise me. Again, the difficult part's going to be, I heard the bite's been on crabs, not so much the shrimp, so you got to have crabs, and B, are we going to get the weather to get out there and get after them? That'll be the big question.
It's going to be interesting.
It always is, my friend. And I do appreciate you and the boys, Mahoney and Marshall, covering for me for the weekend so I could recover.
Yep.
And I look forward, like I said, get out there this week and see if we can't catch them up a little bit.
All right, brother. Well, we look forward to seeing you soon, and thanks for the call in, my friend. I'm glad you are recovered.
I am recovered. I'm feeling good, ready to go to work. Yeah, somebody's got to do it. Listen, here's the good news, okay? And I did this for the people because I'm a man of the people, okay? Costa Rica is beautiful. You just keep telling yourself that. It's beautiful and it's safe. It's okay to go there. Okay. I went, I checked it out, I did my job.
He did his legwork for us, guys.
I did it. I did it for the people. I'm a man of the people, Dylan.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. Thanks for all
your
hard work.
The lodge is still beautiful. If you want to take Emily and go back to the lodge, I highly recommend it. It still looks great.
I'm glad it's still there. Thank you for checking.
Okay, buddy. I'm there for you. Talk soon.
Tell Beth, nice fish again.
I will tell her. I'll tell her you opened with that. She'll be very proud of you, Dylan.
Oh, yeah. I got her back. See you, buddy.
All right, partner. See you.
Oh yeah, gotta open with the fact that Beth caught the 65-pound rooster fish. For those who aren't familiar, a rooster fish is basically a really big amberjack with some like fancy headgear. That's what a rooster fish is. Josh is gonna pull it up here so you can see it. But a rooster fish is essentially a amberjack with some headgear. That's what it is. And you can actually go to the Real Animals Facebook page, Josh. And when he's pulling that up on the Facebook, there's a photo of Miss Beth holding her big old rooster fish on the back deck of that 32 Contender. So definitely a beautiful fish and cool to see for sure. So that'll be a good show. Did you know that he's on season 18? Season 18, believe it or not, which is crazy to me, of Real Animals. There it is. He is. There it is. 65-pound rooster fish. And this is Captain Javier right here. And when my wife and I went to Costa Rica with Mike, it was a while ago. It was before we had kids, probably like 6 years ago or something like that. We had we got to Zancudo, and it wasn't like you were assigned a captain. Mike didn't choose his captain. They put the names of the captains in a hat, and we get to pull out the names. And so I pulled out a name, and I pulled Captain Javier's name. So we had him for 3 days in a row when we went to Zancudo, and he's like the top dog, been there forever, most experienced captain, and we just lucked out having him. So it was really, really cool. So definitely a good dude. All right, let's get back to it. Is it time for a giveaway already, Josh? You're right. Let's do another giveaway. We did the Hubbard's Marina swag pack. Let's give away the 5-hour half day for 2 guests. 5-hour half day for 2 guests. Lucky winner is Jeff Reedy. Congratulations, Jeff. You and Olivia are going fishing, my friend. I think I hit the right button. There it goes. Jeff, you got 5 minutes or less to claim that free trip. Make sure you text us your full home address, my friend. Also, want to make sure we give a shout out to some more star senders. We had quite a few come through there. Richard Harcourt, what's up, my friend? Don Schuett, Richard Blazak, John Bull, Angel Perez with another 1,500. I think that makes like 3,500 for Angel tonight. Thank you very much. Katrina, Don Schuett with another 400. Tim Harris again. Appreciate you guys so much with the stars and the supports. All right. Let's get into some of these questions. Any tips for keeping frozen shrimp that have thawed and become mushy on the hook? No. That is the challenge this time of year. That was actually a challenge we were filming. For those of you who follow us on Facebook, you saw the photo of my dad and myself out on the boat together. We were out filming on a 10-hour trip this past week. It was this past week, right? Tuesday. And the challenge was we got shorted on shrimp. So we literally had no shrimp delivered, basically, on a day that we had a bunch of people going out on an all-day trip for hogfish. So that was a little bit of a challenge, and I didn't get any live shrimp whatsoever, personally. So I scrounged together some, but essentially I was left to use frozen shrimp, which suck. It's a challenge because as the frozen shrimp thaws out, you put it on the hook, and even trying to hook it is tough because the hook pulls through it so easily. If you do get it to stay on the hook, as soon as it gets in the water, the very first nibble you get, that shrimp is gone. Whereas if it's a live shrimp or a fresh dead shrimp, that is the better bait, much superior bait, because once it freezes, it becomes super mushy because basically those cells explode when it freezes. So they become a lot more soft and a lot more mushy, and they don't like to stay on the hook at all. So really the best bet is to have live shrimp or to take your live shrimp and keep them fresh dead. So live shrimp or fresh dead are the best. They stay on the hook better. Frozen shrimp works, but there's really no answer to keeping them on the hook other than you just got to reel up a lot and rebait a lot, and it's super frustrating, honestly. So I used some frozen shrimp. I was fishing with some cut threadfin pieces, some smaller pieces of threadfin for mangroves and lanes. I ended up catching some nice lanes, some nice mangroves, and I got a small hog, not a keeper hog, and I got every kind of juvenile grouper I could. Short red grouper, short gag grouper, short scamp grouper. It was super fun. It was a good time, though, fishing with my dad, and I did catch some nice lanes and mangroves for dinner, and we did get some good filming in, and it was a good time. So every day on the water is a good day, right? Let's see here. What other questions? Have you tried the Temple Reef inline rods, and do you carry them? No, we do not carry the inline rods. We brought in a bunch of Temple Reef slow pitch rods and still have a few of them left over, so we just didn't sell them like we thought we would. And we don't really sell a ton of rods. People tend to ask us about rods. We talk about rods. We teach people about rods, and they seem to buy them elsewhere a lot of times. So we just don't move a lot of rods, and we don't have a lot of space in our tackle shop, so we don't carry a bunch of rods. The only rods we have in stock mainly are some of those Temple Reef rods, the slow pitch rods that we're trying to get rid of, and I'd be happy to make you a deal on. And then we have the Hubbard's Marina bull bay rods, and we have the Fletcher's custom Hubbard's Marina rods too. So we have the Fletcher's rods, the bull bay rods. Those are kind of our high-end line. And then we have a bunch of kind of fill-in lines as well that are good values as well. So we do have quite a few rods for the size of our tackle shop, but not a huge selection, kind of tailored to what we do on the water. Gator Gyms is definitely the place to go if you want a huge selection. All right, what else do we have here questions-wise? What's your observation on gag populations compared to 10 years ago? Personally, I would say 10 to 15 years ago, gags were much more populous. We were seeing gags much more frequently. We saw them a lot shallower. We saw a lot of gag grouper. I would say that gag grouper did decline quite a bit, but they are coming back quite a bit as well. And now we're starting to see it really kind of match historical levels. So I would say right now, gags are coming back. Have they come all the way back to where they were when I was younger and where I've seen them at their best? No. But they have come much higher up than they were 5 years ago. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, we definitely saw a marked decrease in the number of gags. But right now, we're seeing a lot of baby gag grouper. We're seeing a lot of juvenile gag grouper. We're seeing a lot of sub-adults and even some decent size adult gag grouper. The challenge is you don't see a lot of older fish, and that's where that rebuilding plan goes. And that's what Fisheries Science and Management aims to do, is to really fill in that older age composition kind of arc in that table. They want to see a lot of older, more fecund breeder fish, and they want to see the male to female population ratio correct. That's what they're working towards right now, and they're getting close, in my opinion. I would say the fishery is starting to look better, and I think if we get an updated stock assessment, I think we'll see a lot of changes in the gag grouper fishing, and I think that's our biggest challenge right now with gag grouper is management in science is working based off a stock assessment that was completed in 2021 with a terminal year of data of 2019. So basically, we're managing our gag grouper resource based on 2019 data. It's 2024, guys, so let's get that updated. That's 5 years old. So I think when they do a stock assessment update, I think science is going to see that uptick, that uptrend in the population. And if you're interested in more, one thing I would highly recommend doing is going over to hubbardsmarina.com, and once on our website, you can hit fishing trips, scroll down to more information, and that very first link is Fisheries Science and Management. So again, fishing trips, more information, Fisheries Science and Management is the very first option. There is a litany of videos here to help you kind of understand how it all works, how the process works, why we're at the point we are today, plus of helpful links on how to sign up for email newsletters, how to check the quota levels, how to get involved with stock assessments, a ton of helpful information here at the bottom. So helpful links and incredibly helpful videos with PDFs as well. So tons of information. You could get a minor in fisheries management right there on our website, hubbardsmarina.com. Hit fishing trips, scroll down to more info, hit Fisheries Science and Management. So check it out if you're interested to learn more. Can you keep or salvage red grouper meat half eaten by a 6-foot bull shark as you're going to bring it in for the boat? Asking for a friend. Technically, no. In the Gulf of Mexico, you cannot keep a mutilated fish. So if you were to catch a world record 100-pound grouper or whatever, I'm being facetious. If you catch a huge fish, huge trophy record-setting fish, and a shark takes a small nibble out of it, you can no longer keep it legally. Now, some people are like, well, if what's left is legal size, you can still keep it. It's kind of up to the officer's discretion, but how the law is written is very black and white. Any mutilated fish cannot be kept. And a shark bite is considered mutilation because you can't prove that it was a shark, right? The officer wasn't there. So if you have an officer who is following the letter of the law, black and white, pull you over and sees a very obvious 60-pound gag grouper that was bit by a shark, you technically can't keep that fish, and it's illegal. So we have occasionally, like I've kept a fish like that before where it just had a little nibble out of it, and it was very clearly a legal fish. It's one of those things that, are you willing to go to court over? What would a rational officer say when pulled over is the question. But we've also gotten ticketed and had to go to court. We caught a kingfish, and we cut the belly out of the kingfish and used the belly as bait for grouper. And the kingfish literally just had a perfectly clean, trimmed belly, gutted in the fish box. And this new officer wanted to make a case against Hubbard's Marina and ticketed our captain and tried to arrest him. It was a big to-do at the dock, got it all kind of calmed down. Everybody went their own ways, but we definitely had a ticket. We had a fine that we had to pay because it was a mutilated fish. But that's pretty silly. And I'd be happy to take that one to court. So there are things that don't make sense, and that's one of them, in my opinion. And that's honestly come up at council meetings before, but it kind of opens the door, right? Oh, this fish head, it was a legal fish. Here's the fillets that I was able to scrounge together, and you could just, it opens the door, right? So it's a slippery slope. So that's why it's not legal. It's kind of one of those things you scratch your head about, though, especially now that we're seeing more and more shark interactions, and more commonly you're getting really beautiful fish eaten by sharks, or at least chomped by a shark. Makes it challenging. To better preserve kingfish or mackerel on a 39 or 44, should you gut them and put them in the back fish box? Seems if you're caught on the way out, the meat starts to separate, definitely. The problem with kingfish and mackerel are they are pelagic, they're oily, and they don't last too well. You can gut them, bleed them, and still just under the crushing weight of all the fish that we catch on a 39-hour trip, they're going to get a little bit mushy. Technically, if you had a separate cooler for pelagic species, that's really the way to go. But honestly, most of the time, kingfish and mackerel are going to be best used, at least mackerel are going to be best used for bait. The kingfish you can kind of separate and try to keep a little nicer on the side of the cooler, but it is tricky to keep those fish nice on a 39 or 44-hour trip. That's why trolling on the way out is really intended to catch bait, bonita, mackerel, that kind of thing, and use them for grouper bait. Trolling between spots on a 39 hours where you get the wahoo, the tuna, the big kingfish, and those are going to be nice by the time you get back because they're not 3 days old at that point. How has the overnight snapper trip been? I have one booked on the 29th. We haven't gotten many out because of the weather. It's been really challenging. We've had bad weather every weekend virtually. So we haven't had a 12-hour night trip recently. But the mangrove snapper bite is good and is picking up. So I would imagine the next 12-hour night snapper is going to do very, very well for sure. Happy birthday, Mark Snow. It was his birthday yesterday. His wife just texted us in. Happy birthday, Mark. What tips would you give someone doing a 39-hour trip for their first time? My tip, number one tip to someone doing a 39-hour trip for your first time would be to take a deep breath. You're not going to get it right the first time. The learning curve is very steep, and you're going to go into it with the knowledge that the learning curve is very steep and that you're probably going to not be 100% prepared right. You're either going to be over-prepared or under-prepared. You're going to bring too much crap or you're not going to bring enough crap. That's generally what happens. And if you go into it with that kind of perception and knowledge that, hey, the first one's the learning trip. Let me get my feet under me. Let me figure this out, what I need, what I don't need. It is going to be a much more positive experience. You're going to leave it like, oh, my gosh, that was so cool. I can't wait to go back, and I'm going to do it this way, and I'm going to get it right, and it's going to be awesome. Whereas if you go into it like, oh, I'm going to bring everything and I'm going to have the best trip ever, then inevitably something's going to be a little bit off of your perception or your research, right? And it's going to set you up for failure and a little bit of negativity. And to lower the learning curve, what you want to do is check out our website, watch the videos, read the website, check out your confirmation email, watch the video on the 39-hour page, check out some of our YouTube channel videos of 39-hour trips, and then from there, you could talk to us, give us a shout, chat with us over the phone. We can help you out. And then do some other trips. If you've never been to Hubbard's Marina before, you've never shown up by car and found out where to park, it's a little bit challenging your first 39 hour. You're going to be a little stressed out, so show up early. Give yourself plenty of time. A lot of people will show up for their first trip, and they show up like right on time, and they're flustered, and they're racing around trying to figure everything out, and it's tougher. So give yourself plenty of time. Take a deep breath. Go slow. If you can show up the day before, do a little reconnaissance mission. That helps as well, so you know where to park, how to unload, how the process goes. Maybe do a couple trips. Maybe do a 5-hour trip. Figure out how the company works, where the boats are, all that good stuff. The lower the learning curve, the better experience you're going to have off the bat. And the way you can lower that learning curve is doing some of that legwork on the website, the videos, maybe coming to visit us, maybe showing up early, going slow, those kind of things. And go into it with a positive attitude, obviously, as well. You can learn a lot from the people around you, and if you're positive, you're nice, you're open, you've got an ear open, and you're willing to listen and ask questions, it makes it so much more positive. Party boat fishing is cool for that reason, is you get to meet other people. Some of them, like Tom Collins, can be frustrating to fish next to. Shout out to Tom. And then others are really cool, you know. You meet people from all over the country that fish a little bit differently. Maybe they do something that could help you. Maybe they could do something that's not helping you, right? So you learn a lot by just watching and listening and asking questions. And if you see someone catching fish and you're not, hey, what bait are you using? Hey, what tackle are you using? And a lot of times people are happy to share the love, share the information. It's a lot different than it used to be, right? Back in the 90s, everybody was secretive about what bait they were using, what knot they were tying, and everybody had different methods, whereas today it's very open and people are very happy to share their information. It's pretty cool. Can anyone troll in the 5 and 10 hours, or is it only regulars? Anybody can troll. You're welcome to troll on the 5-hour trip. You don't have assigned spots. It's first come, first serve. A lot of people troll on the way out in 5 hours. 39-hour trips, if you have a stern spot, you have first right refusal to troll. If you don't have a stern spot, most of the time you can find a spot to troll, no problem. 39-hour trip as well, 44-hour trip. The 10-hour, we don't always troll, but again, it's first come, first serve, and most of the time it's not a problem to find a spot to troll. 12 hours, no shot to be able to troll, for sure. Let's see here. Is braining and bleeding the fish considered mutilated? No. Bleeding the fish is generally just a small incision, and braining it is a lot of times done with a very precise instrument, so you're not mutilating the fish. A mutilation would be like cutting the stomach out to use for bait, or a big shark bite out of it, right? That's a mutilated fish. Saw a story online that venting fish may be stopped because it's doing more damage than good. Is this true? Venting fish works as well, if not the same, as descending fish. Asterisk. The asterisk there is large, because venting and descending are almost the same if venting is done by someone who knows what they're doing and they get it right. Even someone who knows what they're doing, you can slip or maybe stick it in a little too far, or maybe it's rough out and you miss. Then you got to poke another hole. So even if you know what you're doing, sometimes you make a mistake, right? Whereas with a descending device, it's really easy. You clip it on their mouth. You're not putting another hole in them. I mean, I don't mean this crassly, but it's idiot-proof. A descending device is super easy. Plus, with Return 'em Right, which I happen to be ironically wearing their hat tonight, the Return 'em Right program gives you free descending device gear. Josh just put the link in the chat. It's returnemright.org, Return 'em Right. The Return 'em Right program allows you to get over $100 in absolutely free stuff mailed to your door. They give you the weight, they give you a pre-rigged sequelizer descending device, and a secondary descending device comes in that little box as well. They mail it to your house absolutely free. All you have to do is go to their website, returnemright.org, take a short, like 10-15 minute class, give them your information, and they'll mail you that box of free stuff absolutely free. So that is super easy to do. It's, like I said, idiot proof. You just clip it on the fish's mouth. That works a lot better for 90% of fishermen and fisher ladies, because you don't have to know where to stick that fish. You don't have to use a sharp instrument offshore in rough weather where your hands are wet and the fish is moving around. It's a lot easier to do, for sure. However, an experienced angler with a venting tool can do it as effectively, if not the same. But a venting tool does put a hole in the fish, and it does cause more trauma injury, I guess you could say. So descending is definitely preferred with a fish like a big red snap or a big gag grouper out of season. You want to get that fish in the water and make sure it survives. Descending devices are better in that case. And keep in mind, a descending device is going to rocket that fish back down to bottom, or at least close to the bottom, and it's not going to have to swim down on its own. So if there's predators around, like sharks, a descending device is going to be better than venting, because it's going to send that fish back down to bottom past the predators. In most cases, you would think a descending device is going to feed the sharks, but in reality, you catch that fish and it's fighting the way to its surface, and you're really struggling. The fish is struggling. It's tired. It just fought for its life. You get it to the surface, you wrench the hook out of its mouth with your de-hooker, you stab it in the side with your venting tool, you take a couple of pictures and you toss it back in the water quickly. You've done everything right, but that fish is now like, holy heck, what just happened to me? I just fought for my life. I just went up to the surface. There was no air. I couldn't breathe, and they stabbed me again and flopped me back in the water at the surface. Now I got to swim all the way back down to the bottom on my own power, which I don't have much power left because I just fought for my life the whole way to the surface. Now I'm stuck, have to swim back down to the bottom with no protection through that gauntlet of sharks. Whereas a descending device, you clip it to their lip, they rocket to bottom. They don't even have to swim. They can just lay there still, stunned, and it's going to send them to bottom. And then once they get there down to the bottom, they're repressurized. They're back in the cooler, darker condition. They're already right there next to their homes. Their protection of the bottom isn't far away. So a descending device is actually going to be better for the fish, much better for the fish if there's predators around as well. So hopefully that answered your question. All right, let's go ahead and do our giveaway. We did our 10-hour all day, right? So we did the 5-hour? Oh, you're right. So 10-hour all day trip is next. So let's find out who won the 10-hour all day trip for 2 guests. 10-hour all day trip for 2 guests goes to Jim Bott. Congratulations from New York. You got 5 minutes or less to text us your full home address, and we will send you that free certificate. All right. What type of crab are you using for bait that you mentioned earlier in the show? Pass crabs. A lot of people talk about blue crabs, which is illegal to use a blue crab, especially a juvenile blue crab. You got to use a pass crab. They're like reddish in color. How deep do you have to go to get lane snapper? Are you catching them on the bottom or with knocker rigs, or off the bottom with chicken rigs? And do you have a video to teach you how to tie a chicken rig? I could do a video to teach you how to tie a chicken rig, but our crew would probably murder me. Chicken rigs are great. They just cause a lot of tangles. So I personally don't like fishing a chicken rig. I can count on one hand how many times I've fished a chicken rig personally, because it tangles up easily. It doesn't get you the quality fish. It does get you some meat. If you put a chicken rig on there, you put some squid on there, you drop down, you can catch a lot of the gray snapper or white grunts, the vermilions. You can sometimes catch some lanes. Now, you do occasionally catch quality fish, like a mangrove snapper might bite a chicken rig. I've seen red grouper come up on chicken rigs. I've seen some nice fish caught on chicken rigs. I'm not saying it can't happen. So someone's like, oh, I've caught me a nice fish on a chicken rig. I'm sure you have. But it is not as natural. Remember, we talk a lot about presentation, right? You go to that 5-star steakhouse, they bring you out some white tablecloths. The waitress has got this beautiful get-up going. They put out your plates all nicely. That steak's all plated. I don't care, personally, how my steak looks. I just want to eat the thing. But if you are at that nice restaurant, in that ambiance, you get in the mood, it looks nice. It makes you even more hungry, right? That presentation does something to your you start to salivate, right? It gets you more excited. The presentation's good, you get more anticipation, you're going to feed more heavily. Same with the fish, right? Think like a fish. If you're at Denny's, your presentation isn't as good as if you're at that 5-star steakhouse, right? And you still might eat at a Denny's. Everybody does. Love me some Denny's. I won't eat at a Waffle House, but I might stop at a Denny's. We eat gas station food. If you're hungry enough, you're going to eat no matter the presentation, right? But presentation makes a huge difference. And quality fish are going to go after that presentation. And they're going to be slower to go after that gas station food, right? With ill presentation. It's kind of the same with people, right? Quality is going to be better over quantity. So look for that. Think like a fish, and that quality presentation is key. So what I mean by that is when you're fishing for a quality fish, a big mangrove snapper, a smart grouper, one of those fish that are going to be a little bit more leader shy or timid, they're looking for that nice stretched out leader, that perfectly straight hooked bait, that thing that's not all tangled with 87 different beads and crimps and all this weird crap going on, right? They want it simple. Keep it simple. Keep it nice and straight. Hook your bait straight. Make sure you stretch out your leader. What I like to do is I use what we call a fish finder rig, which is a slip sinker, an egg sinker on your main line, a swivel, about a 4 to 5 foot leader, and a hook. That's what we call a fish finder rig. Some people call it a Carolina rig, but an egg sinker, slip sinker, swivel, 4 or 5 foot leader, hook. And then when you drop down to bottom, you let it sit for a minute or so. If you don't get a bite right away, I like to raise my rod tip up real slowly and set it back down to bottom real slowly. And what that does is that stretches out your leader, because there's always a little bit of current. The boat's always swinging a little bit, so there's a little bit of movement. So when you raise your rod tip up real slow and drop it back down to the bottom real slow, what it does is it allows that bait to separate from that weight. And now all of a sudden your leader's nice and stretched out, your bait's over here, your heavy weight's over here, and it's all looking really good. It's adding the garnish to the dish. It's increasing the presentation, right? So that's going to help you. Whereas a chicken rig, your weight's on the bottom, your bait's over here, they're moving around a lot. It's impossible to keep them still because it's not laying flat on the bottom. The presentation sucks. You're going to get some aggressive fish. You're going to catch them, but you're going to catch the gas station fish. You're not going to catch the 5-star steakhouse fish. Hopefully that analogy makes sense. What's the best bait for snook? The best bait for snook is being at the right time. The right time is what matters most, big time. So can you type in smart? Yeah, that's perfect. So the right time is what matters. So we're going to pop over here to Smart Fishing Tides. This is the tide app I use from Saltstrong. And I'm going to go to tomorrow, Monday, and let's see when I'm going to catch a snook. Sunrise. So right here, it tells me very clearly when throughout the day is the best time to fish. And this is it right here during the Solunar Major. Basically, the sun's going to start coming up. The water hasn't warmed up yet. Things are going to be popping off right around sunrise in Johns Pass. Today, it was more of a sunset bite, at least when I checked earlier. Yep, more of a sunset bite. And again, that's the major after that tide change, about an hour or two after tide change. And it's the same tomorrow, about an hour or two after tide change, right there, 7, 8, and 9 a.m., 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 a.m., 6, 7, 8. Man, I can't count all of a sudden. But right after that tidal change, about an hour or two, that's the major tide, and that's when they feed best. And snook are extremely sensitive to those Solunar Major and minors. So finding when that major is going to be your best chance to catch the snook, best time to catch the snook. And if you hit them at the right time, when they're feeding really actively, you can throw a shrimp, a pinfish, a grunt, a mirror lure. You could throw a DOA shrimp. You could throw pretty much whatever you want. When they're eating, they're going to eat. When they're not eating, they're not going to eat. It definitely making sure you time your snook fishing around the tide is extremely important. think we got time for one more, and then we'll do some announcements and close this thing out. What is the recommended length of braid when doing a 39-hour trip? You don't have to have braid. Remember, on a 39-hour trip, we're only fishing about maybe as deep as 250, maybe 300 foot. And if you have a nice fishing rod, you don't need braid. But if you have braided line, you got to add a monofilament or a fluorocarbon top shot, which is a fancy way of saying you add a leader before your leader. Basically, you do a line-to-line knot from your braid, and you put about maybe 30 to 40 feet of monofilament on top of your braid. You want about a third of the line of your water to be that shock absorber, that monofilament or fluorocarbon. You can get a little bit shorter if you're more experienced, so maybe a quarter. So, for example, if you're on a 39-hour, you're fishing 100 foot of water, you'd want about 25 foot. If you're fishing 150 foot, you'd want about 30 or 40 foot. So, definitely want about 20, 30, 40 foot of mono on top of that braid for a 39-hour trip to add the top shot. Hopefully that answers your question. All right. I think that's all we have time for. We will try our best to get to the rest of the questions. If we did not get to your question tonight, I'll try to get to your question either later tonight or definitely tomorrow morning. Want to make sure we cover all our announcements. We are in a warming trend, as I mentioned. Spring fishery has sprung. We talked a lot about that already. Oh, the Hubbard's Marina tattoos. That's what we wanted to cover before we close. So we've talked a lot about how if you get a Hubbard's Marina tattoo, you can get free fishing trips, right? And we've talked about this. People thought I was joking or something. I don't know. But it's real. It's a real thing, and people have done it. So we've got quite a few of these Hubbard's Marina tattoos roaming around. So keep your eyes peeled next time you're on a trip with us, because you might see someone's lower arm or lower leg with a Hubbard's Marina tattoo. We've got quite a few of them floating around nowadays. So if you would like free fishing trips, you can get a Hubbard's Marina tattoo pretty dominantly displayed on your lower leg or lower arm, and you get a free 39-hour trip times 2. So you could use it for yourself, you could use it for yourself and a friend. 2 39-hour trips absolutely free. It's basically like about $1,000 to $1,200 value, absolutely free if you get the Hubbard's tattoo. But it has to be dominant, it has to be lower leg, lower arm. And you can reach out to me, info@hubbardsmarina.com, if you want to confirm or go over the details or specifics. And then once you get the tattoo, send me a picture, send me an email, and we can book your trips. So definitely pretty cool to see all of the Hubbard's Marina tattoos. But wanted to make sure we showcase those to let you know it is real and it is happening. So if you want some free fishing trips, it's Hubbard's Marina tattoo time. With that, also wanted to make sure we reminded you guys about the cooking show. If you haven't caught the cooking show, you should. It's pretty cool. If you go to hubbardsmarina.com, under hubbardsmarina.com, hit fishing trips, scroll down to fishing video links, and then under fishing video links, hit fishing tips and tricks. And on our fishing tips and tricks page, scroll down through the nearshore and offshore stuff, scroll through the rigging stuff, and then to general tips. And right there at the bottom of the general tips is the seafood secrets: how to crack stone crab, how to shuck oysters, how to cook fish like a Hubbard's Marina family member. We also got some inshore tips. There's a lot of stuff on our fishing tips and tricks page, so check it out. And then I think that's everything we have tonight. So hopefully we'll see you guys sometime soon around the docks. Hopefully we'll get you out on the water, and hopefully we'll see you next week for another episode of the live stream show. Remember, every Sunday night, 7:30 p.m., you can join us for the live stream show. If you are a supporter, our supporters after show is going to kick off at 8:45. So join us in the supporters group. Remember, it's only $4.99 a month. You get private access to the private supporters group and behind-the-scenes information, more connectivity, and some free stuff sometimes, like the free 12-hour trip that's coming up for supporters. Also, want to shout out Craig Robinson, Richard Harcourt. They sent us some stars there towards the end of the show, and Don Schuett as well. Appreciate y'all and everyone who sent stars tonight, especially Angel and D. Beers, the big star senders, and Lance Hall right behind them. Appreciate y'all supporting us. Appreciate everybody in our supporters group. Appreciate our friends over at Gator Jim's Tackle, 3301 Pinellas Point Drive, South in St. Pete. Stop by, say hello to our friends at Gator Jim's Tackle. And then, finally, we'll see you next week for another episode. Remember, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too darn busy. Let's find out who won our 39-hour trip for one lucky winner. Lucky winner is John Greska. Congratulations, John, from Newport Richie. You got 5 minutes or less to claim that free trip. Text us your full home address. Hopefully, we'll see you guys soon, and hopefully, you guys will follow us on Facebook, on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram. Make sure you follow Hubbard's Marina. Make sure you like our pages, subscribe. Make sure you comment and like the stuff we post. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for being a part of our Hubbard's Marina family. We'll see you for the supporters after show at 8:45. Y'all have a good night.